On a gloomy night beneath the drizzling rain, a group of passengers huddled together, sitting on wet seats, waiting for their bus to arrive. Despite the anticipation, the arrival of the bus filled them with an odd sense of unease. Finally, the bus appeared in the dim light of its headlights. As the doors opened, passengers stepped inside, and the interior of the bus was pitch black. The silence was broken only by the sound of raindrops hitting the windows. After passengers had taken their seats, strange events began to unfold as the bus set in motion. The temperature inside dropped suddenly, and the window panes fogged up. Looking out of the windows, instead of the familiar scenery, they saw an empty, misty bridge. As passengers exchanged uneasy glances, a bizarre scream echoed from within the bus. No one could determine its source. Their eyes scanned the interior, but nothing was visible. This scream sent shivers down their spines and reverberated within the bus before more peculiar incidents occurred. One passenger stood up and approached the driver's seat to inquire about what was happening. However, the driver was nowhere to be found. Only an empty seat remained. As passengers' anxiety grew, they began to suspect that some strange entity was present inside the bus. As they grappled with the mystery of why these odd events were unfolding on this bus, where the driver had disappeared too, and where the source of the screams was coming from, the passengers had embarked on a dark and eerie journey. Now, they would have to uncover the truths and bring an end to this nightmarish night. The tension inside the bus continued to escalate. They had no idea about the disappearance of the driver or the source of the screams. The interior of the bus remained dark and foggy, and when passengers looked out the windows, instead of a known bridge, they still saw this bizarre scene. One passenger took a flashlight from their bag under the seat and illuminated the interior of the bus with a focused beam. Their eyes widened in shock as they saw expressions of concern and horror on the faces of the other passengers. One of them had vanished. All that remained was an empty seat and a rain-soaked coat. Panic started to spread among the passengers. Some rushed towards the bus's doors, but they seemed to be locked and wouldn't budge. The peculiarities inside the bus intensified further. One passenger claimed to see vague figures outside the window, while others said they heard a strange melody. Another passenger reported hearing some sort of scream coming from the restroom. The worried expressions on people's faces left no doubt that this was no ordinary bus journey. Many passengers were trying to figure out where the bus was heading, when it would stop, and most importantly, what all these strange occurrences meant. During this dark and eerie journey, passengers had a feeling that they would have to uncover a truth filled with secrets. However, finding out what that truth was and how this nightmare would end would require more effort. The dark atmosphere inside the bus was becoming increasingly intense. Passengers were concerned about the missing fellow passenger, and they wondered what the next strange event might be. One passenger decided to closely examine the vague figures that appeared outside the window. They directed their flashlight towards the window and witnessed a shocking sight. Outside, an old and decrepit train station emerged. However, the surroundings of this station were shrouded in nothing but mist and darkness. As passengers tried to comprehend how the train station had suddenly appeared, another strange event occurred. Another bone-chilling scream echoed from the bus's restroom. This time, the scream seemed to confirm the presence of something lurking within the bus. Many passengers turned toward the driver's compartment, desperately attempting to open the doors. However, the doors remained locked and wouldn't budge. Panic ensued, and one passenger decided to break the window in an attempt to find an escape route. But as the glass shattered, they screamed in sudden pain, and a bleeding hand emerged from behind the broken glass. The peculiarities inside the bus had become unbearable. Fear rapidly spread among the passengers, driving their desire for this bizarre journey to end as soon as possible. Yet, the mystery of why these horrifying events were happening inside the bus and how it would conclude remained unsolved. As the strangeness continued within the bus, the passengers were consumed by fear. A missing passenger, locked doors, and screams had left them trapped inside a nightmarish bus. As the passenger with the broken window was shaken by their bloody hand, others rushed to help. They noticed something beneath their clothing was causing harm. When they removed the bloodied object, everyone's heart sank. It was a small human heart, Most passengers recoiled in horror. The mystery inside the bus was growing increasingly terrifying. Just then, faint figures behind one of the windows drew closer. One passenger decided to use their flashlight to get a better look at the silhouettes behind the glass. However, as the figures became clearer, one passenger realized a horrifying truth. These outside figures seemed to take on the shape of the missing passenger. A deceased passenger was now wandering outside, in the misty station. Panic among the passengers was now uncontrollable. The doors remained locked, and the nightmare inside the bus persisted. They didn't know what to do. But this strangeness had to come to an end. They needed to find out what the truths were, and how this eerie journey would conclude. The horror inside the bus had become unbearable. The bloody heart of the missing passenger and the silhouettes outside at the misty station were causing everyone to experience moments of sheer terror. As panic continued to escalate among the passengers, they had come to realize that something was profoundly wrong inside the bus. When passengers looked out the window, they noticed that the figures outside were approaching the bus's windows. These silhouettes could be the ghost of the missing passenger. But why was this ghost haunting their bus, and why were these bizarre events happening? One passenger gathered their courage and headed toward the front door. They pushed on the seemingly locked door, but this time, the door opened, with other passengers following. They stepped out of the bus and into the misty station. The mist was dense in every direction, severely limiting their visibility. They moved cautiously, hearing strange sounds and seeing peculiar shapes in the station. They were trying to trace the ghost's trail, but they still didn't understand the reason behind these occurrences. Suddenly, they saw a figure slowly emerging from the mist. It was the silhouette of the missing passenger, just as bloodied as inside the bus, but this time, it was even closer. The passengers' hearts raced, and this eerie encounter left them horrified. Following this encounter, the passengers needed to understand how to cope with what had happened inside the bus and the secrets of the misty station. This bizarre and frightening story would uncover more truths before it came to an end. The ghost of the missing passenger seemed to appear in front of the passengers at the misty train station. The passengers were filled with fear and concern, but now it was time to find the source of this strangeness and fear. The ghost, slowly approaching and taking on the appearance of the missing passenger, had left everyone horrified. However, this ghost was not like a dead spirit. It had more of an expression that seemed to seek help. It began silently guiding the passengers, showing them the way. With every step it directed, the ghost explained the reason behind the passengers' terrifying journey. The bus had embarked on this strange journey to commemorate the anniversary of the missing passenger's death on this special night. However, the ghost, instead of harming the passengers, wanted to remind and make them understand. They slowly walked out of the station and began to move in the direction the ghost indicated. The ghost's demeanor had changed, and it had now started to guide rather than seek help. Finally, they reached a cemetery where the missing passenger's grave was located. Far away from the train station, the ghost pointed out the name of the missing passenger. On a monument next to the grave, the hearts of the passengers were heavy, and with the ghost's wish, they paid their respects at the grave. This strange and eerie journey had now come to an end. The journey guided by the ghost had taught the gathered passengers a lesson. To commemorate the death of the missing passenger and bring peace to their soul, they could now conclude this gloomy night with their bus and return. However, the experience they had gone through would leave an unforgettable mark on their lives.